Hi y'all, today we're going to give you a quick tutorial on how to create a presentation slide for a gel image. So the first thing we're going to do is open a new Google Slides document. And here we see the default slide. I'm going to delete the subtitle text box and just use the primary title text box and put a short but descriptive title there. I want people to see the title and know exactly what the slide is about without too much text. So restriction digest of phage, and I probably could have put phage DNA. Now assuming that you have the image downloaded to your desktop, next thing we're going to do is add the image here. So I'm going to go to Insert Image, Upload from Computer. And I'm just going to select an image here for this example. You see our image has been inserted to the slide. And the first thing I'd like to do is crop the image. So we're going to slide in from the black bars. If you use the blue bar, it's actually going to move the image and not crop it like I just did here. But it's okay, you can change that. And notice the image is a little bit dark, so what I'm going to do is brighten it by going to the Format options and then finding Brightness under the Adjustments tab. And you can play around with this one. Somewhere between 10 and 50% is going to work. This one's had some pretty bright bands, so I'm just going to end up putting it at a 10% brightness. It also helps me see the outline of the gels, so I can crop it a little tighter. I want the crops to be pretty tight, so that way when I blow up the image, it gives me a nice picture. So there you can see we took that down to just our part of the gel, and I'm going to resize it by dragging from the corners. And here I'm playing around with the brightness just to see what works for me. I want it to be bright enough to see, but also not too bright that the bands appear as if they're not separated. So if you look at lane 3, there's 2 bands right next to each other. And I'm just trying to adjust the brightness to make sure that I can see everything, but also see that there's a gap in between. So 10% is what we're going to use. Next thing I'm going to do is add numbers to the lanes, and I like to do this by creating a text box and just typing in the numbers. So we have 7 lanes. I've typed in 7 numbers. And using the font size here works fine, but I'm going to bold them. And then I'm going to change them to yellow. So yellow text on a black background is a good contrast. And I'm just going to line the number 1 over the first lane, and then add spaces in between each of the numbers to get them to align to the corresponding lanes. It may not align exactly, but it works well enough. Now what I'm going to do is add a table. So the table will allow us to correspond the samples with the lane numbers. So this is a 2x8. And then the top row, I'm going to have the column descriptions. So here I'm going to put the lane number and then the sample name, or just the sample. Narrow that left one since it's just going to be a single character, 1 through 7. I'm going to center it a little bit and add some bold titles here just to make it look a little bit more professional. And then I'm going to start naming what I have in each sample. So lane 1 is our ladder. It's a bench top 1 KB is the name of it. Lane 2, we have our undigested phage DNA sample. And then lanes 3 through 7 are the restriction endonucleases that we used. So for those, I'm going to just put a short sample name, so DNA plus the corresponding restriction digest ones. So in that first restriction digest we did was BAM H1. Second one we did was CLAW 1 or CLA 1. And then we did ECO R1, restriction endonuclease. Our fourth one was HAE3. And then finally we used HIND D3. So you can see they're short but very descriptive. I just want people to look at the slide without having to read too much to know what they're looking at. And then again, I'm just going to add a little bit of formatting here, look a little bit more professional, like we put some effort into it. So I'm going to move that down. And then in this case, I'm also going to add one more little text box. It's just going to have some details for the method of what was going on here. And in this case, what we did was digest 0.5 grams of our phage DNA for 1 hour with each of the restriction endonucleases. So it's just a little bit of information, but it's helpful for the person reading the slide, but also for you when you're presenting. It's a little quick note to remind you maybe on some notes for speaking. And I'll just add a little note here saying that this was a method that we used. And then here I'm just going to change the text color to black because it's kind of a gray, but black will read better on a presentation slide. And then just make sure everything is aligned. That's it for your gel image slide.